All right, so hey there and welcome back to another one, y'all. All right, so obviously we are not on open water. We're ice fishing today. Now real quick, I wanted to go through and talk about what I call my poor man's ice fishing rig. So obviously you guys know I'm normally an open water fisherman, you know, and we normally get, I would say, somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks a year where it gets cold enough to ice fish, where our big lakes, you know, they lock up. We're able to get out, you know, normally on these smaller ponds, smaller lakes. Normally the big lakes we can't get out on, but normally it's a couple to 3 weeks a year. Now that being said, it does not justify spending several $1,000s you know, on equipment whenever you're only going to use it a couple weeks a year, or at least not for me. So what I wanted to share with you guys today is my setup for what I call my poor man's ice fishing rig. So I'll go through it here pretty quick, you know, because there's not a lot to it. And like I said, guys, a lot of this stuff I kind of acquired over a course of a number of years. Like I said, we only get a couple 3 weeks a winter usually to ice fish. As a matter of fact, last winter it was so mild I only got out on the ice just a couple times. But anyway, you know, you don't need a ton of gear and you don't need to put a ton of money to go out and enjoy, you know, whenever the lakes are froze up, you know, especially for us guys, you know, kind of mid-central US and south. So anyway, I'll go through it and I'll discuss a few things here. First things first here, we'll start from the bottom and kind of go up. So my sled here, as you can see, this is my setup, and basically what I've got here is I've got a sled here with a chair on it. Basically, you know, like I said, normally we're fishing these small ponds, so I just pull this sled around. I've got just a chair out of what I hunt out of my ground blind in, and you know, I can sit right next to the hole and just pull this sled right up to it and we're good to go. So the sled is made out of a plastic 55-gallon drum, you know, so there's no cost there. You know, and a lot of things you guys will see potentially are things that I made or kind of came up with, and a lot of the reason is, and I'm going to kind of show my age here, but you know, a lot of the reason is, as far south as I am here, you know, there's not a lot of stores that that supply ice fishing gear, if any, really. So you know, a lot of this stuff I either made because, you know, I was doing this back before, you know, you could just order anything online, or the shipping was just so crazy expensive, like this sled, you know, it just easier just to make it. So 55-gallon drum, all you gotta do is split them in half, guys, couple of runners down it, and you've got a perfect sled, a plastic 55-gallon drum for my sled. All right, so a couple other things super important here. I'll talk, so first things first, Spud Bar. If you're fishing any kind of ice, you need a Spud Bar, especially you know, where you're doing, you know, I've seen a foot of ice here, but normally we're fishing on anywhere from like 3 to 6 inches of ice, you know. And you know, a lot of times what happens is the geese will keep a big part of the water open before they leave. So a Spud Bar, whether it be this homemade Spud Bar or one you buy, is super critical for finding you know, ice thickness and just being careful. So I've got my Spud Bar here. While we're sitting right next to it, I'll talk about my ice scoop. This is just a homemade strainer that I screwed to a broomstick. You know, you don't need to have real fancy expensive equipment here. Moving on here, now like I said, whenever you start getting into that 4-6 inch range of ice, it's kind of a pain to start chopping holes. Obviously, you know, you can go through with an axe, chop holes. If you do have an auger, it's definitely you know, a benefit to you. Now you can spend crazy money on augers. This is my setup here. This was the cheapest 8-inch auger that I could find, and all I did was I bought you know, you can buy these adapters for the augers to adapt to a drill, cordless drill, bottom of a 5-gallon bucket, so if that would ever happen to come off, you don't lose your auger and you're good to go. You know, very, very affordable. Like I said, you can see there's not a lot of money tied up in this. My rod case is simply a plastic hard gun case. You know, very simple stuff here, guys. So we'll talk about my depth finder, fish finder, whatever you want to call it here. This, in my opinion, is more critical than anything as far as all this setup. If you're going to go to all the trouble to get out here, you know, a depth finder is very, very, very helpful, right? So anyway, this here is my setup. This is a Stanley toolbox, just a basic toolbox I've modified to fit my needs, basically. As far as my depth finder, guys, you don't need a fancy flasher. You don't need a fancy depth finder. This is a, what is this? This is a Humminbird Matrix 87C. I'm saying this thing is at least 10 or 12 years old, maybe older than that. Anyway, this was an old depth finder. It came on a boat that I bought, and I upgraded. All you need is 2D sonar, and the trick to this is turn your scroll speed up as high as it'll go. And I'll show you, and once you turn that scroll speed all the way up, you're essentially getting a fairly live image, or a live enough image that you can, you know, do some damage out on the ice. You know, obviously you're seeing a lot of history, but you can still see your jig, you can see fish come in, you can see how they react. You know, really important rather than just standing out there in the middle of the pond jigging with a pole. So for a lot of years I ran just the standard transducer I had on just a stick that went down into the hole. That's why I went with the 8-inch hole. It was a little bigger. Finally a couple years ago they had them on sale, and I upgraded to the Humminbird, the ice transducer. You definitely don't need it. I ice fished for many years with standard transducer, but this is my box. You know, pretty simple, straightforward. I added a little accessory pack on the back so I can keep 3 poles on there. As far as the inside running it, you know, you can run these things a ton of different ways. Like I said, we don't ice fish a ton around here, a couple weeks a year. So inside, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but I've just got I've got this Humminbird. I'm running it off of a Milwaukee battery. I've got a tackle box in here, you know, just kind of keep everything with me there. But yeah, you know, just set this thing up here. You can see I've got a hole just drilled in the side of this box here, and a stop for my transducer cord. So whenever this thing's all set up here, between the balance of the battery and the head unit, it's completely balanced. I can just go from hole to hole, set that in there, and we're ready to rip. As far as ice fishing rods, you know, you don't need a ton of stuff. Like I said, we're fishing small ponds, little lakes, you know, just a little variety of tungsten jigs and maybe 1 or 2 spoons is really all that's critical. So I got a couple different choices here. I use a ground blind for my hut. It's not insulated and it frosts up, but it does the job. Obviously today, you know, it's like 7 degrees and sunny, so we're not gonna need that. But yeah, a couple tiny little rods for being inside that hut here, and I've got just a little bit longer, just a Panfish Pro, just something to where I don't have to kneel down or sit down, or, you know, a couple different options there. Super cheap options. You don't have to spend a ton of money. I've got some cheap inline reels on them. You know, pretty simple, straightforward. Like I said, I've got my chair out of my ground blind here, so I can just simply roll up to the hole with my sled here and take a seat, and I can just be sitting here fishing, and it's just a real simple way to go. Especially, you know, like I said, whenever you're not dragging 4-wheelers, you know, snowmobiles, all that other stuff on the ice. One thing I will mention too, you know, obviously we've got like a foot of snow on top of the ice now, which is actually fairly uncommon for us. Normally we're fishing slick ice, and you know, a good pair of you know, creepers or grips or whatever you want to call it is really important. These are kind of a little bit more on the high end. These are called stabilizers, and they are the best that I've found as far as not falling off your foot. They'll fit around a big boot. Like I said, normally, you know, we're fishing right on slick ice, but, you know, these things have been a lifesaver, very safe. So that's pretty much my setup, guys. As you can see, there's not a lot to it, pretty straightforward. And all in all, I have, I would say, about $150 wrapped up in all of this. That's from auger to depth finder to rods and reels to everything. So it doesn't take a ton of money to come out here and enjoy ice fishing. And you know, ice fishing, I enjoy it just because we simply just don't get to do it that often. Like I said, a couple, 3 weeks a year maybe. But yeah, anyway, that's my setup. I will speak just a second on my clothing too, in case you guys are interested. Obviously, one of the most, if not the most important thing about ice fishing are a set of these spikes here. You know, these are under $10, and you know, obviously you can see I'm out here by myself. Normally we're fishing on pretty thin ice anyway, you know, so having that spud, being able to spud that ice, knowing that you're on good enough ice, being able to act with these spikes. In case you're not aware, these spikes, you just keep them around your neck. If you were to fall in the ice, you know, you simply, they're around your neck, you can take them. There's metal hooks in there, and you can grab grab the edge of the ice and pull yourself out, basically. You know, you can make these. You can take a broomstick, drill a hole in it, and put a nail in it. But these are very, very critical, I feel like, especially, you know, a lot of times it's hard to find somebody to come out on the ice with you down here. So a lot of times I end up doing this by myself. As far as my clothing go, this is the Striker brand. This is the Climate suit. It's actually an ice fishing suit, but as I said, I fish all winter long. This is the suit that I fish open water with. I really don't know about you guys, but like right now it's I think it's 7 or 8 degrees and sun's out, and to me it is warmer on the ice 90% of the time than what it feels like being out on that open water of that boat. So anyway, just a super nice suit here. This is also a float suit. So if I was to go through, you know, this thing does have it's got buoyancy in it. But this is, like I said, this is my open water suit. It's got a basically 3-season suit. You know, they've got it, this whole suit, the jacket and the bibs have liners in them, insulated liners, so you can take the liners out. You essentially got an insulated rain suit, and you know, just a very nice suit for fishing. I mean, I'm warm, plenty warm. I've got just sweatpants underneath these bibs right now, and I'm almost sweating having to walk back to the truck once to get the camera. So anyway, as far as boots go, I'll speak on boots. These are Norfin EVA boots. These are hands down the warmest, most comfortable boots I've ever had that are small enough to run a trolling motor. Obviously we're talking about ice fishing here, but as I said, I open water fish a lot. These boots here are still small enough you can work a trolling motor, which is very important. And but yeah, they're super warm. So anyway, guys, I think I've rambled on long enough. I hope you guys maybe took something from this. You know, like I said, this is a very basic setup that I've got here, and I can still put tons of fish on the ice, you know, with it for just minimal cost. So anyway, I'm going to punch a couple of holes here in this pond. I've got about an hour or so of daylight left, and we're going to see if we can't throw some bluegill on the ice. I haven't had whole fried bluegill here in just a minute, so I'm going to try to get a few for supper tonight. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, if you've got some suggestions, you know, for equipment that may improve me or for others, definitely leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my simple poor man's setup. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me out. If you're new, consider subscribing. We do all kinds of fishing on this channel. This is kind of the total experience, as the channel name says. I like to cover everything pertaining to fishing. With that being said, guys, I appreciate the view, and we'll see you all in the next video.